Welcome back. Well, Ivie Richards of the Corruption Observatory joins us now as we also get his perspective on our fight against corruption. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Well, what would you say? How are we faring at the moment? But let's start with the EFCC.
Apart from the EFCC, really, I think there's a seeming reawakening in the entire fight. Right now, the financial industry has started publishing names of people behind toxic facilities, toxic loans. I take a look at the NERC, Electricity Regulatory Commission. You see that they've started also trying to make law that will promote accountability and transparency in that sector. Issues of bills that are not good, bills that stir the heart of people. Call that what we call those bills now.
Estimated bill.
So, but if you also look at the work that the SON is doing right now, the SON has keyed into the work that ISO, the World Standard Organization, is doing, and trying to evolve a standard on anti-bribery that enterprises in the country will subscribe to. The EFCC and some other anti-graft agencies are also trying to craft an agenda for the present government. You will also notice that suddenly contractors of the FEMA and all of that seem to be doing some work. So I think that on the average, there seems to be a reawakening. And I want to ascribe this to the body language of the supervisor that is in charge of the country at the moment.
Let me get back to this estimated billing. Let me understand your thinking about that. Are you classifying it under what? A financial misdeed?
See, when that sector was privatized, in quotes, one would have thought that, look, there would be an acceptable level of accountability and transparency such that the bills that you get will be exactly what you've consumed, because it's a private entity dealing with a private entity that can be sued and of course also sue you. But because PACN was in charge at the time and people were getting estimated bills and you couldn't take them to court, people now, the current discourse would now want to leverage upon that and say, okay, let's just take, if you can imagine the rot in the system, you will find out that the bills that come from the monies that accrue to the discos on estimated bills is actually fraud, because people don't consume those quantity of energy. But right now, and the same person who was in charge of the regulatory body is the same person right now that is trying to put a perpetual stop.
That's the NERC.
To that practice. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that institutions seem to be working all of a sudden.
We did ask him too, but he said some of these things, they take time. As a matter of fact, this EFCC leadership, he says they have this policy of not reporting how they are going about their investigation or who they plan to arrest when in the press. And it's until the job is done, and then you get to hear when they are in court. And so that's why you don't get to see, or it looks as though they have suddenly just woken up.
It could be painted anyway, anyhow, but it is very glaring. It is glaring that the president that we have at the moment, the body language does not seem to tolerate corruption. We've not had him say anything categorical. We've not had him really use any sledgehammer on a small fly. But the language that seems to be coming from the top, is take a look at the flurry of ex-governors that just, I was listening to the interview with Wujare, and people just seem to be reactivating all those cases that are seemingly dead in the past, everything just coming up. Those that didn't even want to answer to court summons in the past, they started answering to court summons and all of that. And I think all of this is happening because there's the body language from the top that it's no longer going to be business as usual.
Is that a challenge, and how do we overcome it? Where we always have to refer to the body language or who is there. How do we get rid of that and ensure that whoever occupies those kind of positions, irrespective of whatever body language, they just do their job?
That's the ideal situation, best practice. But I'm afraid that is not obtainable right now, even under this present administration. You will find out that if the sign coming from the top changes, all these hula baloo that we see right now, it will just be like a pin in the balloon. We just everything will go down. So I think that we've not really got into the extent where you want. See, a number of things can happen, victimization and all of that. Behind the scene, you wouldn't even know what's going on, and everybody wants to hold on to survival. People want to hold on to, what is putting bread on their table. So, issues of laws about institution become secondary.
So how can we change that? I mean, you said you've called it best practices. How can we change that where the individual who finds himself or herself in a particular office has no choice but to do the work? How can we make corruption unattractive?
That's a very large one. First and foremost, the laws has to be very strong. The laws are strong as they are. It's always the operator
or the interpreter of the law.
Yes,
because that's what the EFCC man said. The interpreters of the law are not interpreting it well,
you see,
or effectively.
As we stand today, if this administration takes one more step forward, to create special courts so that these cases are dispensed with utmost speed, then the cleaner in the office who sees something wrong would not be afraid to raise a concern, because he or she would know that before long time elapses, justice would take its normal course and the conclusion will be reached. But a director in the office who wants to stop a permanent secretary from misbehaving wouldn't want to do that, because the PAMSEC has the wherewithal to suppress his career advancement. And, if that happens, what does he hope to gain at the end of the day? So these are the issues. But I think that government has first and foremost, if government gives what I would call a living wage, an enabling environment, good salary, housing, transport, this fellow is not scared of what will happen to him after retirement, that will embolden the technocrat to say, look, this is not what the code has taught us to do. This is against the code, and you can't do this, and we want to put a stop to it.